This is a Fox News alert. In an impromptu interview with the New York Times, President Trump predicting that special counsel Robert Mueller will, quote, treat him fairly. And while he's not calling for an end to the investigation, he told the New York Times, and I quote, the sooner it's worked out, the better it is for the country. We'll get back to that in a moment. But also tonight, we'll turn to a letter exclusively obtained by Fox News from House Intelligence Chairman Devin Nunes to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, in which he blasts the DOJ and the FBI for their failure to fully, and I say fully, produce documents related to the anti-Trump dossier. Nunes writes that he wants the records by January 3rd, and he also wants to know by that date when the witnesses his committee subpoenaed back in August about the dossier will be available to testify. He ends the letter by writing, and I quote again, at this point, it seems the DOJ and FBI need to be investigating themselves. This letter comes on the heels of a report from the Washington Examiner's Byron York that Nunes is issuing a subpoena to David Kramer, a former State Department employee with ties to Senator McCain. Joining us now with reaction, Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. I got it right there, Pam. Let's have a little fun with it. I do this to you a lot of times, don't I? Put that extra I in there. And our Fox News legal analyst, Gregg Jarrett. Pam, first to you, looking at this as someone who, from the Attorney General's chair, has had to do a lot of high-profile cases. When you start getting these ties, when you start getting these questions about who has ties to what, a compendium of questionable information, practices, tweets, what do you do when you're at the top of this?
Well, Chair Nunes is doing exactly what he should do, and I'm proud of what he did. You know, and I always start off by saying, as a career prosecutor, my entire career, and now Attorney General of the third largest state in the country, there are about 40,000 great men and women of the FBI throughout this country, and there are a few bad ones in the Justice Department who are making the rest look bad. And that's not fair to those great men and women who are out there risking their lives every day. We have Wiseman, we have Strzok, we have Page. And by the way, Strzok shouldn't be in HR. He should be fired. We have now James Baker allegations. We have all of these things. So the Intelligence Committee, they have to take it upon themselves, I think Gregg will agree, to do the investigation the right way and call for these people to be taken off who can't handle it the right way. And the American people deserve that. You know, this investigation should be beyond a reproach. This is the President of the United States.
But, you know, Greg, Washington is an interesting city because there's the bureaucratic deep state, outside or inside of party, how they line up aside. Sure. But to Pam's point, this has become very clearly biased in some ways. Right. And the stalling, the cover-up, sure, the burying of facts and data. And, you know, Devin Nunes, what does he smell here?
He smells a cover-up. There's only one reason why you would defy and stonewall and evade a lawful congressional subpoena for 4 long months. And that is if you're trying to hide evidence of wrongdoing on the part of the FBI and the Department of Justice. It all comes down to the dossier. If it's true that it was a complete fabrication and the FBI knew it, and nevertheless they used it to launch the Trump investigation, that renders the entire investigation a charade and delegitimizes the Mueller investigation. You've got this all too cozy group of guys, Comey, Mueller, Weissman, excuse me, and
Andrew
Rod
Weissman, Bruce Orr.
Yeah,
all these
they've
guys.
all worked together for years and years and years. And there's something unseemly about that because they appear to be ignoring evidence of illegality on the part of Hillary Clinton, potential illegality on the part of the FBI, and they seem to be determined to find wrongdoing on the part of President Trump where none exists.
All right, Pam, unfortunately, sometimes you can't separate the law and politics, especially when you get into either a state capital or a nation's capital. So even if, as Gregg says and lays out, and you've talked about, they're able to deal with the inconsistencies, the problems, the investigation falls apart or they're unable to produce evidence, there is a political aspect to this. How would that be resolved, and is it possible?
Well, I've come to the conclusion now that this investigation into the president needs to end. Every day we're finding out someone else involved in it. And as Gregg said, I mean, this investigation should be beyond reproach. And there are so many great men and women out there who are capable of conducting an investigation with integrity. The FBI stands for integrity. That is their motto. And that's what we've completely lost here. And when you're an FBI agent, regardless of who it is, it should not be about politics. And clearly they've demonstrated, these people that we've all laid out, have demonstrated such an extreme bias, but potentially criminal actions by changing. Strzok was involved in talking to Comey about changing the language so Hillary Clinton wouldn't be criminally charged. I mean, this is serious stuff that we're dealing with a few really bad people at the top making the rest look bad who shouldn't in our country.
I think most of the FBI rank and file, good, fine, honorable, hardworking, excellent people. It's the senior management, this group of individuals, McCabe and Baker and Strzok and Page and even James Comey, that are suspect by virtue of their actions and the messages they exchanged. This needs to be looked into, and Devin Nunes says it's time you guys investigate yourself. I disagree. They cannot investigate themselves fairly and objectively. And so this demands a second special counsel to look into their conduct. The Inspector General's already doing it, but he has no real authority to bring a case.
All right, well, that's the case for the special counsel. This resistance, Pam, goes a little deeper and I think a little wider. When you look at things like the New York Attorney General, your counterpart in the state of New York, Eric Schneiderman, when you look at Hillary Clinton, you just mentioned her. You can't seem to get her out of the conversation. The resistance in the deep state combined, and Gregg's points about they can't investigate themselves. But does a special counsel get us where we need to be, in your opinion?
Well, as a state attorney general, knowing Jeff Sessions, our United States Attorney General, what I hope Jeff Sessions, Gregg, has already done, and we don't know about it, is come in and have these people all work for him. He is the man at the top, and I'm hoping that General Sessions has come in and has somebody investigating all of them. You know, we hear now that who's resigning? McCabe is going to resign. McCabe should be fired if these allegations are true, where he's not getting his pension. He's going to resign in 2018. He should be taken out of the FBI immediately. So I would hope that our U.S. Attorney General is investigating all of these people through a special counsel, because Gregg's right. They can't investigate themselves.
And you know what tips me off about Mueller and his lack of fairness and impartiality? He knew early this last summer that Strzok had sent these anti-Trump, pro-Hillary text messages to Lisa Page. He knew that, removed him, but never disclosed it to Congress upon their request and demands. He stalled for 4 long months, and so did Rosenstein. They covered it up. Now, if you truly care about the fair administration of justice, you don't cover that up. And to those who argue, well, he removed them, so it's okay, how much damage did people like Strzok and Lisa Page do in the full year they were investigating Trump, first with the FBI investigation and then later in the Mueller investigation? All
right, guys, we got to wrap this up quickly, but I'll go to Pam on this one, and that is, of course, President Trump and Rod Rosenstein. Here we go again. The New York Times, I mean, President Trump's being outspoken. What do you say?
Well, President Trump knows he didn't do anything wrong, and this has gone on long enough. And that's why I think President Trump said what he said. He knows he didn't do anything wrong. He knows this has gone on way too long. He's out there doing tax reform, putting great Supreme Court justices on the bench. All of our rates are lower than they've ever been. Unemployment is lowest it's ever been. The president's out there doing his job. He knows he did nothing wrong. We need to move on with this.
All right, so Gregg, if you know you've done nothing wrong, and let's take in Pam's comments, and you're the president, has he set himself up correctly with the Mueller statement that he made to the New York Times? And what should he do about Rod Rosenstein, if anything, next?
Well, first of all, he said exactly what I would tell him to say if I were his lawyer. Don't criticize Mueller himself. And the president's smart enough to do that without counsel. And that's what he did. In terms of Rod Rosenstein, I mean, this is deeply troubling. He has a conflict of interest that disqualifies him, but he continues to insist that he will not recuse himself from the case. He continues to insist all is well. Everything's perfect. Mr. Rosenstein, everything is not perfect. Look at all the people that have been removed because of misconduct in this case and suspicion of wrongdoing. That tells us all is not well.
All right. Well, thank you, Pam. Greg, great to see you again, as always.